there, I'm Square, and let's talk about art. So in this piece today, I've actually put together a video that combines the last two art pieces that I completed for my Yashahime reaction review episodes. One of them is of Setsuna, and one of them is of Toa. Now, when I was going into the Toa project, the one that I started with, I thought right away that I'd want to make the two be kind of a partner piece. I wanted them to kind of relate to each other in a way, since they're twin characters, and I wanted something that would complement each other. So one of my ideas was doing this kind of profile, side profile shot, which isn't an angle I often draw. So I did have a little bit of trouble in the beginning. You can see in my sketch that I altered things a lot. I always had a little trouble with the eye placement when I see the side profile. It's a little tricky to figure out exactly where to put it. Not too close to the bridge of the nose, but not too far away. It's a little trial and error. And that's one thing that's really nice about digital art, is being able just to grab that eye and move it around, see if I like it, move it around, see if I like it. And ultimately, I was pretty happy with the overall placement. Now I'm going in to do the line art, and I wasn't sure how thick to make the pen that I usually use. Now I use Manga Studio EX, which is now Clip Studio Paint, but it's generally the same kind of program. This is just a really old version of it. And it has a lot of tools a lot of manga artists use, including the G pen, which is my favorite pen to ink with. Because this is a pen that gives you a nice flow depending on the amount of pressure you put down. And I do like when the lines aren't completely exactly perfect and they kind of have a little bit of tapering off at the end. Now, I'm not the best at controlling the pressure yet, so sometimes it gets a little wonky and I have to go in and correct it later. But overall, I do like the effect. But going in, I haven't done a super zoomed in piece like this. So deciding how thick I wanted those lines was a little bit tricky for me. So eventually I did decide on doing kind of a 20 point, when usually for faces and stuff, I stick closer to 10 or 12 with full body shots. Yeah, that was an interesting difference. It felt a little big to me at first, but I think it worked out pretty well by the end. And being able to do a really zoomed in shot like this, I got to really pay attention to the design of Toa's hair, which is probably my favorite of her features. I love how chunky it is and the way that it's flowy and the way that it looks short but still kind of androgynous. I think that's really, really appealing. Short hair is something that you're seeing a little more often on anime style characters, like female anime style characters, but it's usually done in a pretty feminine way to show this is a female character. But I feel like Toa's hair could go either way. And depending on the rest of the features, it's hard to tell if this character is more male or female. So I find that to be really, really interesting in her design. So that's something I tried to emulate. And throughout this piece, I am trying to emulate the style a bit. This artwork here is honestly a little bit of a departure from the style that I naturally draw in. And it's kind of strange because every piece that I've done so far for this channel is me trying to do a bit of an Inuyasha Rumiko Takahashi take on what I like to draw. And it ends up somewhere in between. And looking at it, I can see a little bit of myself in there, some of the things that I like, but I know it's not completely the way I would design a character like this. So one thing I've actually done is I'm starting to work on the artwork for the next episode, episode 4, which I'm excited about, but I'm excited about every episode, so that's not too surprising. And this one, I decided just to do everything completely in the style that I like. And so I'm really curious if there's going to be a different feedback because it's kind of different than everything else I've done on this channel so far. And I kind of want to show the way that I like to draw a little bit more and kind of practice that a bit more digitally. I have a few ideas for art videos in mind because ultimately what I want for this channel is I want it to be an art and anime type of thing because those are two of my biggest hobbies and passions. So I'm trying to find a balance right now, because I don't just want these speed paint videos, but I don't just want the review videos. I'm trying to combine it. It's a lot of experimenting. I'm still a little new at this, but I do appreciate the feedback I've been getting and some of the support I've been getting as well. You all are very, very sweet. I really do appreciate you watching my videos and just giving me a chance when I'm kind of a newbie at this. So here I am finishing up Toa's eyes. And I realized after a while that I really wanted to do a couple different shades of skin on her face. Now, normally when I do my cell shading for skin tones, I tend to stick with just like 3, like a base, a shadow, and a highlight. But this time I added in a couple more. I added a different one around the lips, and I added a second shadow because it felt a little empty. I'm not sure how I feel about the final result. It's interesting. It's something I need to experiment a little more with. And ultimately, I gave it a simple background. I really like that paper texture. Simple brush for clouds. I wanted the main focus to be the character. And now we're moving on to Setsuna. So you can see here that I'm tracing over the Toa piece that I drew. And I wanted to do that on purpose because they're twin characters, so I wanted them to have the same kind of facial structure. They're not identical twins, obviously, but when it comes to siblings, they do tend to have a lot in common. Like, it's just like kind of family relation thing. You could kind of usually tell when people are related. So I wanted to give the same kind of face quality, but change up the eye shape and just the rest of like everything, like the hair and the clothes. But I thought the eye shape would be key to showing that these characters are related and they're similar, but there's a difference between them. A lot is said in the eyes of a character, especially in Japanese designs. Now, I'm no expert of Japanese culture at all, but I have, done some research into it. Hearing about the culture of Japan outside of anime is rather interesting. And it seems like a lot of emotion is shown a lot more in the eyes than it is in the rest of the face when it comes to emotions and relations when you're speaking with a native Japanese person. And I find this rather interesting, like in America, because I'm American, we show a lot in like the mouth. We're really quick to smile, we have those exaggerated expressions in the face. And in Japan, it seems like people are a little bit more subtle. Now, I'm not trying to paint everyone with the same brush. These are just things that I have learned from people that I know and a little bit of research I've done because I find just expression and the way that people communicate rather interesting. But in general, it does seem like eyes are a bit more important for expressions in Japan than they are here in America. We put a lot more emphasis on like mouth movements, and it shows kind of in their like emoticons as well. A lot of American ones are like those like typical sideways ones where you have like the colon and like the brackets and stuff to show a smiley face. But in Japan, they tend to be like right side up, and most of it's shown in like the eye structure as opposed to ours, which is just every eye is pretty much the same, but it's the mouth that changes like a circle or a D to show a big smile. It's interesting to think about. And honestly, I kind of prefer the Japanese ones. I think they're a bit cuter, and I tend to favor cutesier things. So I used my silly little chibis that I drew, the little like running ones for my colors. I decided to pull from those because those are ones that I've already created by pulling from the regular ones. And honestly, I made those just for my timeline video, but I really love how they turned out. They're super cute. But then when I'm drawing Setsuna here, I realized I messed up on hers. She doesn't have like the bang, like the fringe stripe like Toa does. She actually has a stripe that goes like down the side of her head and through her ponytail. So I'm gonna have to correct that. And I didn't notice it until I started pulling the colors here. I'm like, And I kind of wanted to fix it like in this moment. I'm like, I could do that later. I'll do it on the actual piece instead of here and then like pasting it back in or something. Oops. So it's kind of funny the things that you notice as you continue to do the art. Here I want to show a little bit more shine on her armor. Now, typically when I do shade in clothing, I just do like 2 tones. I try to keep my solid shading relatively simple when it comes to the clothes, just base and then a shadow. But I tried to add in a third shine, that kind of like highlighty type of thing, so it looks a little bit more reflective on her armor piece. And I'm experimenting with that a little bit more in the other piece that I'm doing to see if I could make it look a little more armor. I want to kind of play with that texture a little bit so that comes across. Now, when I'm shading her hair, I honestly really love how the hair is shaded in that Rumiko Takahashi style. That big chunk of like darkness with a bit of that highlight showing through. I think that's really, really neat. And again, it's something I'm starting to emulate a little bit in my own artwork. But the eyes are something that I'm still experimenting with. I'm not 100% sold on the way that eyes are drawn when I do it this way. I think eventually I will figure it out. Digital art is a really good way to just experiment with new things. Now here I'm going to start to work on the background. So I'm grabbing the paper, the same one, and I'm flipping it so we get kind of a mirror image. And the way I'm thinking about this piece is I want them to be able to like be side by side, like, you know, they're facing different directions, but they're still kind of connected. They're a little bit opposite because they grew up in opposite ways. There's a bit of symbolism here. I don't know if it's really that deep. Honestly, I really like that kind of mirrored look. And when we have them together, I do like how they look ultimately. I did tweak Toa's a little bit. I don't know if you can notice in the eyes, but when I looked at it again, I wasn't too happy with them. So I fixed the eyes a little bit and I'm much happier now. And I really like how these look as kind of like a twin partner piece. So overall, I'm satisfied with how this turned out. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for just giving my channel a chance and checking out my videos. If you like them, I would really appreciate you liking and subscribing and checking me out. Again, I do post multiple videos a week. I've been pretty consistently posting a review of Yashahime at the beginning of the week, and then usually something art related later in the week. This week I actually posted 3 videos, and I think I might be able to keep the 3 video thing up. No promises. I think 2 is something that I could commit to at least. So, thank you so much for being with me today.